Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Blizzard Watch podcast. I am Matt. I am hosting this shindig. With me are my two usual guests and my third new guest, who's actually been here a few times, so I guess he gets to be semi-usual. I don't know how that works. I'm sorry. I'm a simple frozen caveman. So let's first say hi to our new guest, Cory. Say hi, everyone, Cory.
Hi, everyone, Cory. I've been here at least 7 times at this point. I haven't been keeping track, but got to be at least 7.
At least 7. That's pretty specific.
Yeah, 7's probably more than most people have been on the podcast. I think at this point, Joe and Liz have been on it a ton, and I've been on one incarnation or another of the podcast since 2009.
What are we coming up on?
A
500?
long time.
Yeah,
just a few episodes.
Yeah, we'll be 10.
Because of the way that things are being numbered right now, we have a special one that will be releasing very soon, if not today. Is it out already?
It's out. It's out there. Yes.
So that one is 496. This is 497, which means 2 more before we hit the 500th.
And we get a sandwich.
I don't know about that, but a sandwich would be nice. I am hungry.
A free sandwich? I would do everything for a free sandwich.
Do you know, Cory, there's a cookie store in the West Edmonton Mall. It's just a little stand-up one, but they have the best peanut butter cookies ever. They're really
Cookies
good.
by George?
Yes. Yeah, really good peanut butter cookies. Absolutely no one else cares about this, but we get Cory on the show and I immediately start talking about this. All right, let's get on to some stories. I want you to talk to me about a Warcraft Rumble, Cory, because I'm thirsty.
You're thirsty, and I love Warcraft Rumble. It's coming up on its 9th season. By the time you hear this, if you're not listening live, it will have been out for 2 days. And if you're listening live, it's coming out tomorrow. Hello. So season 9, the 9th season, this is the first season to come out after everything we've learned about at BlizzCon has come out. We are in uncharted waters now. There is no roadmap anymore. We dearly wish there was a roadmap because that would be really nice. It would show that they have a plan and that the game is scheduled and planned to be around for another year, which is kind of in jeopardy or in a slight amount of doubts right now, because in the last month or 2 months, Blizzard has had some layoffs, or Microsoft had some layoffs, which have impacted 2 of the Activision Blizzard mobile games. There was the Call of Duty mobile game has lost a bunch of its employees. And supposedly also Warcraft Rumble has lost a bunch of its people, maybe as many as half, depending on some reports. No one has come out and said for sure how many people are left on the team, what they're doing, what their kind of scope of work is. But the corporate speak around the notice of layoffs talked about how it's the team that is left is more of a live service team rather than a creative, generative team. So maybe it is just the normal wear and tear of we don't need a bunch of concept artists. We can make do with only 1 or 2. I don't know. I'm not happy about it by any stretch of the imagination. That's the only reason I could think of. Once you've got a game that is launched and rolling, you don't need as many people working on the basic stuff to keep that game rolling. So we'll see. Like I said, a roadmap would go a nice long way of letting us know kind of what we're in store for. It doesn't have to be super specific. Obviously, World of Warcraft has been able to give us roadmaps that both tease new content and still keep us in suspense and let us speculate and have fun and think about what could be coming in a way that I think is healthy for the game and healthy for the community, because it lets you know that, yes, more is on the way. And especially with a mobile game, a free-to-play mobile game, where if you're wondering about hey, I've got $20 burning a hole in my pocket, do I want to invest that in Warcraft Rumble, or do I want to hang on to that? It could be nice to know.
Yeah, you're definitely right, and I think there's something else in play here that I didn't add into the notes when I'm doing it now because I forgot it existed until you mentioned that, and then it reminded me something. And I don't know if we talked about this last week. The same time that this is going on, Microsoft announced that it's laying off 650 employees and moving other employees around. Yeah. It's also closing sorry, go ahead.
This is part of that. This is part of those layoffs that we're hearing is going to hit the Rumble team.
But I think the interesting thing is they mentioned in particular as part of it is not only closing some of the studios, I think Arcane Austin and Redfall are gone. Arcane Austin is gone. They were the ones that were making Redfall. but they're moving people from other roles into Activision Blizzard roles. And some of those people are being pulled from mobile development games on the Microsoft side and being allocated to Activision Blizzard. And so one is kind of curious, is that going to be something that maybe Warcraft Rumble gets a little bit more attention because it's something that does have potential? Because I don't play a lot of mobile games. This is where my brain is. And it's nothing wrong with people that do, but Rumble always struck me as a game that had a ton of potential for broad appeal. And I don't know that it is necessarily being marketed well, and you guys can tell me, because I think Liz and Corey, you've played way more Rumble than I have at this point. I mostly at this point just take the 3D files and print them because they're cute.
They're very cute.
But is the game in a position where it just needs like some TLC to like sand off rough edges, or does it need an overhaul, or is it fine the way it is?
Well, the last season had some troubles. Season 8 was plagued by some pretty big bugs, including people that didn't make BattleNet accounts to have their account as a part of a BattleNet, but just played it on their own on their phone. They lost their progress, or they lost access to their account due to some bugs that may or may not have been fixed at this point. Blizzard was kind of saying that, like, for sure they could get back BattleNet accounts, but the guest accounts were maybe just too bad, so sad, or maybe they can still find them. It's gone back and forth a couple times on messaging from the team there. So there was bugs. There was, for half of an event week, people just couldn't log in. For half of a different week of that event, the content was just a worse version of playing normally, and no one really enjoyed themselves that week. So Rumble has had a bit of a shaky season. So it's going to be interesting to see how this new season comes out, if they can keep a lockdown on that. Because I think it is a fun to play game, and that's, it's what's kept me playing. If I wasn't enjoying myself, I wouldn't keep logging in.
Yeah, and maybe this will be an impetus because of that potential, and because of maybe the fact that I think it might need that little bit of smoothing at the edges, that maybe we'll see some more movement on in the future. I'm really curious, because it feels like something that Spectre wouldn't want to just abandon potentially. So
yeah, and it should be making them lots of money. That's the thing. But it's weird because at BlizzCon in 2023, they talked about their potential monetization path of, here's maybe we'll add skins for characters, and we'll add skins for towers and cosmetic stuff and all that. And we haven't really seen that. The Kobold miners have three different versions that you could get variously through. Going to BlizzCon, you got a Murloc version, and playing in the first month, you got a Mecha Kobold miner. And the towers, again, you get a Murloc tower set, and one season they added Paladin towers, and then that's it for customization. But they said that, it's coming. So maybe it is still coming. In season 9, they're adding their first world holiday event with a Hallows End event with the Headless Horseman. He's going to be showing up, and some bats I think you can get as a new mini. So we'll see what happens. But that's the kind of thing that you design a skin where everyone's Tyrion gets Judgment armor, and then everyone's like, yeah, we want to give you $3 for Tyrion to have Judgment armor, or for Sylvanas to be a live elf version of herself rather than the undead banshee version. That's where these games make their money.
You almost feel like you could say to them, okay, Warcraft Rumble, we need you to be in between what you're doing now, which is practically nothing, and these ridiculously rapacious monetization of Diablo Immortal, our other big mobile game. Just get over here more towards that, but not that far. Don't go full Immortal. You don't ever want to do that.
Yeah, and Immortal's problem was that so much of it was power too. You're paying for power, and
what was that, Liz?
And but that's also a problem with Rumble, is that it is I think it's a very fun game. It's also a very grindy game to level up all of your minis and your heroes. And you can pay to make that faster. You can pay to, get up there, but it's a never-ending grind. So there's an upfront purchase you can get that'll just increase all of your experience gains, which if you're playing, great value there because it's a grind. But you can also keep buying coins, so you can buy new minis, which will help your minis advance, and it's just like, it kind of feels
so
like
it took
the
all
game
the bad
was
stuff from Immortal, is what you're saying.
Well, that's a lot of mobile games fall into that trap,
yes,
right?
Exactly. It feels... I had this argument with Mitch back when it was first released, and he thought, oh, they're going to balance it to be a smooth leveling curve. And I'm like, no, the leveling curve is not smooth to encourage you to pay money to make it easier. And I think I'm right. I think the gameplay is really fun, and they've made it just difficult enough to level, just slow enough to level, that whenever you're playing and you hit a roadblock, you get to this point and it's like, oh gosh, I need to level this whole new team of minis to get past this one mission. You're going to think about giving them money. I think that's intentionally baked in.
Yeah, there's
and Mitch and I have been running into that too, because we've been trying to do the raid every time the raid comes out, which isn't often enough, I think, which is a different thing. But we can get through the first two wings of Molten Core, but then we get to Baron Geddon and Golemag, and we just hit this hard wall. And we've been trying to do it basically on our own, no strategies, or just like, hey, we're both kind of competent players, let's, figure this out. To this most recent time, I looked up a guide and was like, okay, here's what we should try. And it is. It's like, oh, well, neither of us really use this team. Let's come back next time the raid comes back with it prepped and ready, and maybe we'll get some progress.
Yeah, I think I don't want to continue to harp on it, but going back to this, maybe some folks that have moved over from some other mobile games that maybe have been doing this a little bit longer will have some insight that will help them maybe make some better decisions, because making a game grindy for the sake of being grindy doesn't make people... A certain amount of people will spend money on that, but the majority of people won't. They're going to walk away from it because it's not worth it. Games that succeed at making money while being free, and I come back to this, and I understand that they're not mobile games, but one of them kind of is, or at least has a mobile presence, is Fortnite and League of Legends. League of Legends makes money hand over fist just by cosmetics. Like, they have a battle pass and all that stuff, but it's all cosmetics. And it's because champions are easy to obtain. You can grind. You don't have to play very much to unlock champions. You earn enough currency for that now so that you can just instantly unlock as many as you want, essentially. But everything else requires you to either buy, the skins that you want, or buy points for the skins. And that's where they make their money. And in Fortnite, it's all about the skins and the bling and everything else. And that's where they make their money. And the gameplay for both of those things is fun enough that people continually play them, right? They want to spend time in it. They enjoy spending time playing these games. And whether or not you like them, you can't deny that they have very broad fan bases, and they've been around long enough at this point that the player base for them is pretty large. So just encouraging people to spend time in your game by being good and not pay gating advancement, and then giving them stuff they want to spend money on, like cosmetics and random BS. Like, you can't tell me if Rumble was in the height of its glory and the best game ever, that if they're like, hey, how about Mountain Thane, but gold? And somebody would absolutely spend money on that skin, because they would, right?
But they would love a solid gold leader.
They would. However,
it's frankly...
okay.
Just one sentence. It's frankly super weird that Rumble has not added more cosmetics. This is a go-to way to make money in games. And the lack of development on Rumble is why I'm like, is this game going to be here next year? And I don't know.
Be here in the way that, technically Heroes of the Storm is still here.
Yeah.
You can theoretically play that.
And you can spend money in Heroes of the Storm too, if you want. Yeah. You can still buy those skins. Those excellent, amazing, mind-blowingly good skins.
I'm sorry I mentioned that,
mind-blowingly good game.
I don't want to put Cory on a trend. We actually have to,
there was a Heroes of the Storm.
Liz, Patreon, talk about it.
Oh, you're going to me. I have to talk now.
Yes, it's your
Hello,
punishment.
you all know that Blizzard Watch is supported by listeners like you on Patreon, and we are trying to keep the site over $4,000 a month on Patreon. That's what keeps us going, what keeps us moving. We're trying to get a little higher than that. We're trying to get up to 4,500 because that will really help us produce more content. Like this month, we did a bonus Blizzard Watch podcast with Jason Schreier. It was so fun. It's out now. You can go listen to it.
Oh, you're doing both at once. I love you.
Yeah, I'm fitting multiple things in here. So that was a great podcast about his new book, Play Nice: The Rise, Fall, and Future of Blizzard Entertainment. It is such a good book. I really enjoyed it. I learned all sorts of stuff that I didn't know, and I thought the book is out on October 8th. So next week you'll be able to buy the book. I super recommend it if you're interested in video games, how video games are made, how the business world works and affects the way games are made. And just if you want to know more about Blizzard, if you want stories about Chris Metzen, about Ben Brode, if you want to know what any of these guys were like in the development of games, it has it. I really enjoyed it. I cannot state that enough. But we talked to the author, Jason Schreier, about it, and you can listen to that right now. We're working on a series of podcasts, of Lore Watch podcasts about Dragon Age, which if you listen to the podcast pre-show, we also went off a little about Dragon Age today, but more Dragon Age because that game is coming out at the end of October and we are so excited about it. But we didn't want to take up all of our Lore Watch hours with Dragon Age. We want to keep giving you Warcraft and Diablo. So we're doing some bonus Lore Watches, which you should be able to listen to this month. Haven't gotten them out yet, but they will be coming out soon. And just basically, we want to do a lot of extra content. We're doing more Dungeons & Dragons and tabletop content, if you're into that. And your support is what helps us do that. So I want to thank some new supporters from the past week or so. Lydia, who joined us at $5. Luna joined us at $5. Allie joined us at $1. And I know that doesn't sound like much, but even $1 helps and adds up. And Mike increased his pledge to $25. Thank you all. This is what helps keep the site going. It lets us do more content, different content. So please support us if you can. If you can't, we understand. We'd love to have you listening. Rate the podcast on your podcast service of choice. Recommend it to friends. All of that helps. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Liz, for getting so much covered in that one announcement. That's actually very helpful.
Hey, speaking of Chris Metzen, did you know that if you have the Waze app, you can now get Thrall's voice to guide you to your destination?
Yeah, we have a question about it in the email. You could have waited, man.
Oh, man,
Thanks
I'm
for
sorry.
stepping on my tail, man.
I just thought a good segue.
Yeah. Speaking of segues, Queen Ansorek is dead. So Nerubar Palace World First race is over. Team Liquid killed Queen Ansorek. I'm going to ask, I'm pretty sure that everybody here knows more about this than me because, quite frankly, I spent my entire weekend in hospitals. First up, Liz, what do you think about Liquid's finish? Is this what you expected?
Liquid actually was pretty dominant over the state of the race. As soon as they got in, kind of usually you get smaller guilds who don't day raid all the time jumping in on the first bosses and getting the first few kills. We saw a guild called Melee Mechanics get the first 2 world firsts in Nerubar Palace, but after that, Liquid got every single one. Usually you see a little mixing up, but no, Liquid got the lead and held onto it for almost the entire race. There were a couple times when Echo got ahead of them, but it was kind of Liquid from start to finish, being significantly ahead of everyone else. Now, Queen Ansorek at the end of Nerubar Palace is a super difficult fight. It took Liquid 404 pulls to kill her, and Raider.io actually did some math on the number of total pulls in the raid, and it was 1,000 total pulls over the course of this raid because so many bosses required a couple hundred pulls to kill them. There were so many challenging bosses. I thought this was a really fun race exactly because there were some challenging bosses, because you could sit and watch guilds try bosses again instead of bosses where it's like 10 pulls and it falls over, 1 pull and it falls over. 50 pulls and it falls over, where it's like you walk away from the world first race for an afternoon and then it's totally different. But yeah, Liquid went in 404 pulls and did a really clean pull on Queen Ansarek, doing it's an interesting fight because you fight her in phase 1. In phase 2, she's totally immune. You're just fighting ads. And then in phase 3, you're fighting her again, but with waves of ads. It's a lot to manage in that last phase because each of the ads drops an orb. You have to grab the orb and carry the orb through a portal so it doesn't get murdered by her AoE, which is going to wipe the raid. And it's like there are 3 ads and 3 orbs. And then there are 4 ads and 4 orbs. And then there are 5 ads and 5 orbs. I know, this is too much. And they don't go away, and you have to keep carrying them through portals. So by the end of the ad phases, you have more orbs than you have raiders, and it debuffs everyone and increases their damage each time. So we saw a lot of juggling orbs, I guess, in this last phase of the fight, and it took people a long time to get it. Liquid did it in 404 pulls. Echo did it in like 127, I think. Method was in the 400. Everyone who's killed it since has done it in kind of the 400 range. I think one of the things that has been really interesting in this fight are the Chinese guilds, because Chinese guilds, this is their first time back in the World First race because World of Warcraft wasn't available in China for the entirety of Dragonflight after Blizzard lost its deal with NetEase. And Chinese guilds have been killing it. We've got Hot Pot Hero, which has been hanging in at 4th place. Endmyth and Jitenhong and Zbox. All of those are Chinese guilds. All of them in the top 10. All of them have been working on Ansarek in the past couple of days. And it's really exciting to see more people in the race, more guilds in the race. Of course, NetEase did offer a cash reward if a Chinese guild claimed the world first this time. And they're going to keep increasing the amount of cash on offer every raid tier until someone wins it. So you can tell there were some really motivated guilds out here that were really fighting for it. It's amazing to see this many Chinese guilds in the top 10. China raid release is 2 days behind North America. So they have a big delay and they have to work really hard to get those kills. So it's been a really impressive race. It's been a pretty close race for most of it, even though Liquid's been ahead. Echo's been right behind them, and Method's been right behind Echo. And then you just have this whole mix of Chinese guilds kind of in that 4th, 5th, 6th place space. And a couple of North American guilds right there as well. But I think it's been really fun to watch. It's been a great race.
Okay. I was going to say, Cory, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, it was the perfect length of time too. Like, as much as I love laughing at the World First guilds when the race goes to almost 3 weeks or above, even in the Kill Jaden case. For them, I understand the trials and the hardships, especially with the in-person gaming. So like finishing this off in 12 days is about the right amount of time. You get 1 reset, you get 1 re-clear, and then you're done. Easy peasy. It's long enough to feel like something has been accomplished, and it's short enough that none of them have to figure out alternate accommodations or flights home, which I remember Liquid having to deal with on the last race when it went long and they were just stuck. That was the jailer. Maybe longer than the last race, but where they just were so demotivated by the end of it that they took a day off for travel and rest and recuperation. Okay.
Not the only thing going on in World of Warcraft right now, although certainly possibly the biggest thing currently going on, because the rest of the stuff, I mean, a lot of it's going to be in November. November is going to be a big month for World of Warcraft for a variety of reasons. Do we know when the next patch is dropping? Like, have they actually announced it yet?
We don't have a formal date, no.
Yeah. So that's sometime in November, because that's when the anniversary stuff is coming. I could point out there's a magic broom mount that you can get. It's on the store. I don't know how much it costs. Like the post they have does not tell you how much it costs or anything. It's just, hey, we've got this mount coming. It's Eve's Ghastly Rider, and it's a broom.
Mounts are usually in like the $25 range.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's probably
And,
going for that. Since it's not, if it were on sale, they'd probably mention it.
This was originally in the trading post, wasn't it?
It
Yeah,
sure was. Yeah, it was last October's trading post reward when you completed the whole thing.
Yeah,
Well, now you can
the
just buy
final
it.
thing.
But at the same time, well, now that we've mentioned that, October Trading Post has also come out. Plus, there's news about what's coming in November. I'm going to mention the November news first because I like it more. Basically, the class armors from last year are coming back, except now they won't have class restrictions. Basically, you get the armor shows up, you can just grab it. I don't even know if they count as having an armor type. It's quite possible that they're all available to anybody. Like if you're, you're a warlock, you might be able to wear lady-looking suits. That's all they said was that they're bringing them back and they're getting rid of the class restrictions. That's what they said.
You know what? I find it funny that they're doing this with a lot of stuff and removing the class restriction on that, but I still can't transmog my one-handed dagger into anything other than a dagger or a Legion artifact. Why? Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Clearly, because
it's fair.
You want to that badly.
Mm-hmm.
In the words of Batman talking to the Joker once about why he has a mask that exposes his chin and reveals to everyone his perfect, super handsome face, he goes, to mock you. And I feel like Blizzard does that kind of thing to us all the time. But the other stuff about the trading post that's coming out is there's quite a lot, actually. There's that weird, terrifying flying hand thing. You can get
Non-flying.
that. Huh?
Not flying.
It's just
it's a ground mount. It's one of the
the Hand of Reshmal.
Yeah, it was. It's the Shadowlands. It was the
Maw.
It was the Maw Seeker one, but it was also like, wasn't it also one of the ones for like getting like one of the mythic key things or whatever? Because I have one, and I definitely did not get the secret.
It might have been a glory of.
You know what? Maybe it was a glory of.
There's also
it plays rock, paper, scissors, by the way.
A fist weapon that does not transmog to a dagger, I am sorry to say. There's a harvester transmog.
Perfect.
Remember the harvester robot?
10 out of 10. No notes.
There's also some nice shoulder armory type stuff that's coming, and what they call light weapons and dark weapons. Those are, you can get a light one or a dark one. The dark ones tend to look evil, and the light ones tend to look not as evil. Some of them are just like a big club with spikes on it. That's never going to look like a good thing. I'm sorry. You can make it not be oozing blackness. It still looks like you're going to mess someone up with a big spiky club.
Well, I mean, it could also be a matter of perspective, because from my perspective, it's the light weapons that are evil.
Yeah. Thank you, Anakin. But the bow of that group, the one of the weapons is literally something you could get from the Argent tournament, because it's one of the weapons from that. It's the mace from that. I recognize it, just by looking at it. So, I mean, it means that Horde can get that model now, which would be nice for them. There's a bow that's basically two feathery wings, and one of them is lighted up, and one of them is darkened and corrupt looking. And I'm positive I've seen it before, but I can't remember what it is.
We get a lot of recolors. A lot of recolors in the trading post.
Nothing wrong with that. I like recolored.
Yeah.
That's fine. But so there's that. That's coming. There's quite a bit to this. It's a very, I don't want to say busy, because that sounds like dismissive, and I don't mean it that way. But I mean, there's also like the Swift Zevra mount you can pick up, and for like a not too expensive 550 Trader's Tender if you like Zevras. There's also some pets. There's the Soot Stained Shellwing, which is a it's the Deep Ridger pet, just different recolor. And there's two toys, the Delicate Ebony Parasol and the Delicate Silk Parasol, which is basically a black one or a white one. So again, we're going back with the dark and light.
There's a lot of that, yeah.
So yeah, overall, I mean, I'm gonna turn it to you guys to talk about which ones are your favorites or whatever. I think I've talked enough about this one.
Well, what I would bring up mainly is that for an October trading post, the spooky month as we all know it and love it, or at least the very fall month if you're not that into Halloween, the choice of completion reward for completing your 1,000 Trader's Tender journey makes no sense to me, especially with the Harvester Transmog as an option. Why would you give us, which perfectly matches the fall Halloween aesthetic, but the completion reward is a glowing light squid, octopus?
Because last year's was
Shadowland.
perfect, right? Last year's was perfect. You got the broom mount. but they're trying really, really, really hard not to double up on the same reward in like a calendar year or within a period of time. So this, I don't think, has been offered before. So they're like, okay, well, we can offer this. And it's spooky adjacent, I would say. It may not be the scariest thing, but it's a flying weird jelly octopod thing that like has an orb inside of it.
It's just not aesthetic. Like, at least if they had given the Crawley hand mount, at least that's got skulls on it.
I agree with you, but also the Crawley hand mount doesn't fly, and every one of the bonus mounts that they've offered for any of the bonus mounts has been a ground and flying mount. So
sure.
I don't know, like it doesn't bother me as much because the rest of the stuff on there seems fine. It's not like overtly spooky, but it is definitely like spoopy season colors, like a lot of like muted colors, a lot of like pastel-y stuff. Like I really like I collect the Trader's Sarong like crazy. I love those. Those are like the greatest things ever on Dark Iron Dwarves. So like that Midnight Sarong is like I purchased that like it was shut up and take my tendies, right? Like it just matches so perfectly with everything. But like the shoulders, the hands, like I know that the you have the gloves of the morning mist, which I know Liz was at one point collecting the gloves. I don't know if that's the case anymore since you are now currently on a Drakthir.
I have all of those gloves. You never know when you're gonna need them.
Yeah,
they can make some really unique looks. So yeah.
But also there's the other side of that, which I'm not trying to like defend them so much, but you also have to take into account that not everybody cares about October the same way that a lot of the world does.
I refuse to believe it.
And some places have distinct cultural differences based off of that as well.
Some of them have Thanksgiving in October.
So
weird.
So I'm just saying, like you got to take it with a grain of salt, I think, especially for something that's just like, hey, you're playing the game. Here's some bonus stuff.
At least a grain of salt, because I mean, there's a turkey to eat, and sorry, you don't just want one grain of salt on a turkey. That's crazy. But no, I have already talked a lot. Liz, do you have anyone you want to throw in here before we move on?
No, I'm not too hyped about this trading post, but maybe the next one. That's always how it is. Some really get you, some don't, but all of them have transmog, so all of them are great.
I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with the class sets from last year. If just class sets come back and anybody can use them, that's really huge. Although it still won't help Joe.
I would like to see, with those class sets returning, and just we should start getting more tenders, because there is so much to buy in these things, and they all cost so much that what they're giving us. I understand that you're not supposed to be able to complete the whole thing, but at least another 500 would go a long way to like fraying some of these costs down to a better level, so that you could get more of the pieces that you really want, especially when they only come out once.
But part of it is also to try like there has to be a balance, right? Like I agree.
No, nothing but unquenched desires, man.
But also, like if it as long like there's show that they're bringing stuff back pretty regularly now, because I mean maybe we haven't talked about that either, which I think is something that they've been doing that I think is really neat. And I forget when they started doing it. It was last expansion, but I don't remember when. But the trading post would have a selection of stuff previously featured on it, and it wasn't necessarily in the same rotation. It was stuff maybe tangentially related to what was being featured that month. So there's always the opportunity to go back and get stuff. Plus you have the option to freeze something, so that you can get it the next month for sure if you need to or want to. So like they're doing their best, I think, to try to assist with that, with also giving you the incentive to continue to do things in game and earn tendies. So there's a balance there, I think, maybe.
Just as always, the problem is that people are greedy and we all want more.
Everything.
I'm not saying that they should let us get everything every month, but
I'll say
a little more.
They should let us get everything every month.
Okay.
I'll say it. I'll say this thing. How can I say something so controversial and yet so? But now that we've covered most of the WoW stuff, we can talk a little bit about Diablo. In case you guys don't know, the Vessel of Hatred launch is happening within 8 days as we're recording this. It
Less
is
than.
7
Less
days.
than, a lot less than.
And they've moved the
Less than that.
well, they moved the date for global release, but it's going to be October 7th at 4 p.m. Pacific. So now it's going to be 6 days from recording. Yikes! It shrank during the talking. Yikes!
It's interesting. The original date they announced was an international release date, but they didn't give us a time zone. So now they've given us a time zone for the release date, and actually it's October 7th at 4 p.m. Pacific.
Yeah.
So for North America,
side,
if you're on the other side of the globe, it's October 8th. But if you're in North America, it's October 7th.
So yeah. There's a bunch of Twitch drops that you can get. I was just looking at some of them. Nothing that immediately grabbed me too much. There's a horse that I'm a little uncomfortable with, quite frankly. But there's going to be multiple weeks of this. It's not just going to be, oh, hey, the expansion's out, boom, everything. It's weeks that like they've done previously. The first week, which is going to have sorcerer and necromancers, they get fancy hats, I think. I have no idea what these things are. One of them is pretty clearly a hat. The other one, I couldn't tell you if that's a hat or not. But they also get like a scythe and a staff.
I think they're back pieces.
Maybe. That's certainly possible. They could very well be. The barbarian ones, again, that could be a hat. It could be a back piece now that I think about it. The axe is cool, however. Week 2 barbarian axe, that's a really neat looking two-handed axe. It's very, I made this out of twigs and sticks and hate, but it is really nice looking. The rogue bow similarly is really nice. That I think Corey's right that that's a back piece, because although if that's on your head, man, that's original Zul'Gurub look. Weird. That's what that is. And the 4th week is druids, which means that at no time does the new class apparently get any Twitch drops. Which is
why would they support their new class?
Yeah, whatever. But it's a nice druid mace, and it's a nice, if that's a back piece, great. If it's a hat, yeah. A lot of these, I really kind of have to hope they're back pieces, because, man, I don't want to. Well, at least 3 hours of eligible. There's actually the Battle Caller's Crook two-handed staff item cosmetics, and the purple weapon recolors apparently as well. So yeah, there's those, and there's also, if you do support a streamer, from October 8th, 10 a.m. to November 5th, 9:59 p.m. I think that's what we're going with. They didn't put a p.m. there, but they put a.m. for the first one, so I'm assuming. You can get yourself the hauntingly beautiful Ghost of the Conqueror mount, which mostly to me looks like a horse got tattoos from a rave. It actually kind of looks like a cyberpunk horse. They got that horse has got a lot of mods. Then there's another one that you can do. The purchasing or gifting 4 Twitch subscriptions will grant you the formidable glory of the Victor Mount armor, which means that you can put your cybernetic looking horse in glowy Arasaka looking tech armor. The more I look at this, the more I'm thinking this horse is from Cyberpunk. But regardless, that's the horse and armor you can get, as well as the various pieces, which, if you like Twitch drops, yay. And if you don't like Twitch drops, it not hurt you none.
I love it. Truly, with all sincerity, I do love when they do support a streamer ones, because I know that that's a big chunk of change. It winds up being for the streamers, and anything that makes their life a little easier is a-okay in my books, because it's a tough life.
It also incentivizes searching for smaller streamers. I actually found a number of streamers that I didn't know existed just by searching for folks that were, participating in that. And, even in Liz and my guild, and technically Corey's there sometimes too. But when Molly streams, Molly is oftentimes a part of that as well. So, we get to support our friend while they're in raid and earn something in the meantime too. So I like when they do stuff like that. I like when they do support a streamer things.
Yes, it is a good.
I do wonder why. Well, yeah, there's no Spiritborn armor or weapon for the Twitch drops, and the new mount is another horse again. Even though they've shown with the pre-release content or pre-release rewards being a cat, I'm surprised they didn't make it another cat.
Quite frankly, I am wondering if they're just not going to do that, and I feel like that's sad, because I like my cat. Don't get me wrong, I think my cat's great. But I don't like the armor they have for it, and I feel like if they don't put more cats in, they're less incentivized to put armor in for cats. So yeah,
that's fair. Yeah.
Quite frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if they suddenly realize, oh, hey, wait a minute, this is something else we could wring money out of and start putting them in the store. Because that's what they do
Are
with
you-
most stuff.
Are you telling me that selling cosmetics is a good way to generate revenue for your game and can help extend
Well,
I
the
am
game's longevity?
shocked.
I'm not
I
telling
say.
you that, but hey, if you got that message, I won't contradict you.
If only Warcraft Rumble got that message.
Yeah. And it's almost like earlier in the show. I feel like we should almost be like we're on a clip show, and it would actually like segue to Cory talking about that. But whilst we're talking, though, I should mention really quickly, there's going to be a pre-launch live stream the day after we record this. We're going to talk about it next week because obviously by the time you hear this, if you're not listening live, it will have already come out, but we won't have anything to say about it because we're in this strange timey-wimey thing. So that just be aware that's happening, and next week we're going to talk about it. But I do think we can talk about... Well, go ahead, Liz.
I expect there will be a lot of Diablo to talk about next week because the game will be out.
Mm-hmm.
It's like...
And my life will be over.
How did this happen? How did this happen? I don't know.
Hopefully I'll be done with Zelda by then.
Yeah. By now you've probably built a cannon that shoots other cannons.
No, the new Zelda game where you play as Zelda.
Oh, okay. Is that out now?
Yeah, it's out, and it's super cute and fun.
Oh, I didn't know it was out. That's great. Quite frankly, that game should have existed hundreds of years ago. But one thing I did want to mention really fast is we've got a bunch of changes coming to the base game, and some stuff about in terms of when and where these changes occur, for lack of a better word. One of the things we should mention, we've already mentioned that they've updated the release date by a significant chunk of time. One of the things we should mention right off the bat is that in addition to that, they've got the first thing I want to mention is that they are having Vessel of Hatred as a campaign, obviously during the expansion, and you can basically go into it straight. Like you can roll a brand new character like your Spiritborn or whatever, and just jump right into this. You can do that on either the Eternal or the Seasonal realm. Or if you want, you can just use your character you've already got. If you got through the main campaign, you can just straight up get into that. So they've got it basically different ways to do it. I think personally it would be a shame to miss, if you haven't played the original game campaign, it would be a shame to miss all that and just jump straight into Vessel of Hatred. But if you've already done that campaign, and possibly multiple times like me, I do it every season, then I could see not being a problem to just skip it if you've already done it a lot. But it is a really good campaign, and I'm hoping this campaign is as good.
Here's what I don't understand about this whole thing. So for the last year of Diablo, they have been teaching us to create a new seasonal character every new season. So who has a character that they like? This is me being facetious. Obviously, there are people out there that still do that, but like who's playing their Eternal character? I just make a new seasonal character every season, and I play that until the next season. And I forget about it.
Will never make a seasonal character in Diablo 4.
I've got like 4 characters that are now on Eternal Realms that I play. They're all barbarians, so...
It all comes down to, okay, your seasonal character is now your Eternal character. And, of course, Season 6 is starting with the release of Vessel of Hatred, so we're getting a new season next week. So you could just start a new character and play it through the new season.
And you could play the new campaign when you do that.
Yeah.
You don't have to do the old campaign on your seasonal character.
It just struck me as funny because, that's what they encourage is like new season, new character, go. Yeah.
I think that they've at a point where they've started to realize they have to start managing what their expectations are on that front. They want to make it possible for people who don't play the season at all to still get to do this content. And then they also want to make it possible for people who just play seasonal to do the content. So, but there's a list of stuff that's going to be coming with the new. It's basically patching right now, and then the day that it launches, even if you don't own the expansion yet, some of these changes will happen. Like you will see them, and there's a list of all of them. We've talked about quite a few of them before. None of these are really all that new, but we're gonna run through all of them just so you guys know what they are. The new max level will be level 60. You will not be level 60. If you are max level right now, you will be 50 when the new system comes in. And then from 51 to 60, you can get there without doing Vessel of Hatred content. You can level to 60 just because. Go ahead, Liz.
I thought you were just going to, the base game was just a max level of 50 and then you earn 10 more levels in the expansion.
This says, note that any characters who are level 51 and above will be set to level 50 at the start of this update.
Yeah.
So I don't know for sure. I honestly had thought that they said you could level up because it says new max level 60. This is new base game content. So if max level 60 is new base game content, it would apply. It would seem to apply that you can get there. But to be fair, I don't have anything that says that directly.
It's just, I mean, some of this is just a little weird. We're going to have to wait until it comes out to see exactly how it is because the Diablo team sometimes has slightly conflicting messaging on what is happening, and you have to wait until, this is live now.
That's why we wish that we were like a day in the future. So we would have already watched the live stream and we would have some idea because, obviously they're going to have to talk about that on the live stream, he says. But in addition to that, we should talk, there's the new difficulty system, which they talked about previously as well. They're basically going to have like multiple levels of torment, essentially. I don't know if it's called torment, but it's like that. Liz, do you remember how it was going? Like in terms of the words they were using for it?
Well, hang on. I'll open up the post.
She's going to open up the post. I will mention that the Paragon max level is now going to be 300. And the Paragon system is being changed to be significantly more like it was in Diablo 3.
It still has a cap.
Yeah, it still has a cap. The max level is 300. There's the item quality rework is still going on. There's more of that. There'll be 2 new character slots. So even if you don't have the expansion, you will have 2 new character slots. There's going to be new class skills and passives for every class. So as you go from 50 to 60, if you've already leveled up, you'll be able to get new skills and passives. The party finder feature is there for stuff like the new dungeon that's coming in. That's great. There's supposedly going to be new seasonal content, which we did know because we know there's going to be a new season. You can apparently do that season even if you don't have Vessel of Hatred. You just can't do the Vessel of Hatred campaign during that season unless you have it. And of course, the new rewards from the season, that's all coming in. Stuff that you can only do in Vessel of Hatred. Obviously, you can't go to the Nahantu region at all, including the dungeons, strongholds, side quests, new Legion events, and the Nahantu monster families. None of that if you don't have the expansion. So if there's content in there, you can't get it. The Spiritborn class, also apparently Vessel of Hatred expansion only, which might be why you don't get an outfit or anything for them for the Twitch streaming, because they assume not everybody will have it yet. We already talked about the Vessel of Hatred campaign. Renown for the Nahantu region, also not something you can get. The new rune words, only for if you own the expansion.
Yeah.
Dark Citadel and Mercenaries and the Cursed Undercity, all new expansion. You can't get them if you don't have that expansion. And finally, trading for Vessels of Hatred specific resources is also only if you have the expansion.
I mean, they're making a lot of big changes to the base game system. And so anyone who's playing was going to see huge changes to gameplay starting next week. But all of the new stuff is new stuff, and it's expansion only. So yeah, the new difficulty levels, by the way, are standard, normal, hard, expert, and penitent. And after penitent, that's where you get into torment levels. And there are only 4 torment levels in Diablo 4, as opposed to I don't even know how many torment levels in Diablo 3, except that there were a lot.
I would think it was at least 16.
So many torment levels.
13.
So much torment.
But regardless,
but yeah, it feels like Diablo 4 is really leaning into some of the Diablo 3 systems, which it moved away from at the beginning, and now it's kind of coming back.
Even with only 4 torments, you're talking about a doubling of difficulty levels compared to what it is currently. Yes. Right now you got 4 and that's it. And so you'll have 4 different ones and then 4 torments. So that's still 8 and still twice as many. So yeah, it is a lot of change coming to Diablo. Go ahead, Liz.
I always felt from the beginning that it didn't feel like it had enough difficulty levels because you'd start out at 1 or 2 and that would be fine. And then you jump to 3 and to 4. And that was it. You kind of get to 4, and maybe you'd start at 4, like when you're level 70 or even
and then you're
60.
there for multiple levels. Yeah,
and then you're there for the rest of the game. There's no difficulty increase in your kind of basic content. So all you're doing was running nightmare dungeons over and over and over and over and over. So I'm definitely glad to get some more difficulty levels, get some more kind of iteration there as you play.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But now that we've talked about that and the stuff we were going to talk about, Warcraft Rumble, Cory already handled right away because I was thirsty. So we're going to move into talking about some questions. And as you guys know, if you have a question for the site, you can go to our Discord and you can leave it in the Q and Podcast questions channel. If you're just anybody can do that. Or if you are a patron, one of the many cool things you get about being a patron is that you can ask questions in the patron Q and Podcast questions channel, which is where we look first because we want to support you guys supporting us. Help us to help you.
Real quick.
Go ahead, Cory.
I do have to disappear. Thank you so much for having me.
Take care, man.
Yes. And the answer to the Waze question is Sylvanas for her performance at the Warden Towers. But thank you very much. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.
That was Cory, everybody. Thanks very much for being here, Cory. We appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
And now we will move on to questions since I was having to stop to say goodbye to Cory. Like, Cory, I'm sad. First question, then, since he jumped in there. This one's from Tetsemi, who's often asking us questions here, which we really appreciate. Now that Waze has WoW characters giving driving directions, who would be the best and worst, excluding Murlocs for both categories? WoW character at giving directions. I guess for Cory it was Thrall and Sylvanas, best and worst, because he mentioned Thrall earlier. Liz, do you got anything?
Wow, I really thought Thrall was like not going to be good at giving directions because I just remember those bridges he made for us in the Sylvanas encounter that were like full of holes, and I just assumed he would steer us into potholes or into dead ends and you would fall to your death. That's what I think about Thrall giving directions. I don't know. I don't know who I would trust to navigate me through the real world. I don't know if I trust any of these characters that much to be practical, sensible people who know how to drive cars. I think there may be a disconnect here in the direction-giving thing.
Okay, Liz doubts your competence, Warcraft characters. Joe, what about you?
The answer to best and worst is Bronn Bronzebeard. Because it's Bronn Bronzebeard. And if you've ever done any delve with him, you know I'm right. You're still like 3 blocks away from where you're supposed to go. Why don't you stay a while by this campfire? You're looking a bit peckish. Like, I could see that, like, just, it would, again, be the best and worst thing ever.
That's all hail your fake Scottish uncle.
Nope. That is not my Scottish accent. That is my Bran accent. Thank you very much.
No, but he is fake Scottish. I'm not saying you're fake Scottish. I'm saying he is. But, yeah, okay. So that's your answer? For best, I'm going to say Lady Liadrin. Because Lady Liadrin always seems pretty no-nonsense, and plus I like, Mr. Voice Actor. So, yeah, Lady Liadrin for best. For worst, Turalyon. I'm sorry. They've made Turalyon someone I deeply find unpleasant to be around for any length of time. And I'm playing Alliance. I want you to understand this. Remember how everybody Horde-side hated Gen and thought he was horrible? I never felt bad about Gen at all. I never felt embarrassed by him. But Turalyon? It's like having your dad constantly be snippy at someone. It's just like this, Dad, you're embarrassing us. We're trying to do the nice thing now. Would you stop? Oh God, why did I start letting you watch Fox? Like, seriously, that's what Turalyon is to me now. I would be cringing the entire time. Plus, I'm blind, so I need really detailed directions, and he doesn't do that. He just, do it, champion. It's like, oh yeah, okay, whatever. It's like, he makes it so that I'm not even annoyed with Khadgar anymore. Like, I used to find Khadgar super annoying, the whole Dadgar thing. But after this, I'm like, nope, bring on more Khadgar. Bring me as much Khadgar. Yeah, don't have any scenes with Alaria and Turalyon. Just have it be Alaria and Khadgar. Heck, he and Madara and they can have Alaria move in and be their, like, a roommate or something. I don't know. Just less Turalyon. I really hope they stop it because I liked Turalyon as a character. I really did. I still do as a character. I just the things he's doing lately in the game to back up on those. It's enough anti-Horde from Turalyon. I get it. He doesn't like the Horde, but seriously, back it up. So those are my two. That's what I'm voting. I got like 2 minutes, so we can try one more here. This one's going to be, I'm going to go with this one. This is from Elegos, who sounds an awful lot like a dragon we might meet at some point. Don't you think it's odd that after getting the Candle Crown, you don't get to Dark Flame Cleft to defeat the Candle King? Also, after the Magni cinematic, you aren't sent to the Stone Vault to confront the High Speaker. These are perfect opportunities to do another follower dungeon with unique NPCs like they did with the Rookery. This is Wind Knight, Frost DK, Unearthen Ring. I should have read that before I read Elagos. But either way, cool names. So yeah, first Joe, what do you think?
Not gonna lie, really don't have an opinion. Like, I don't know. You do, right? Like, you do go and do these things, but they do seem a little out of sequence. I don't know how else to put it, right? Like, it just seems like out of sequence, if that makes sense. So I don't really know what else to add to it. I'm sorry. So I'll let you, Matt, if you want to respond to it, or Liz, feel free.
Liz before me because I'm the host, so I like not talking. That's cool.
I mean, it just feels like it's kind of a dangling story thread, but you get a lot of dangling story threads from dungeons because they don't always immediately connect the next step. So I think it is a little awkward, but it's part of storytelling in a game like this that has such a vast world, and there may be story threads it intends to pick up later. It may be things that'll be added later, and it may just be a quest that comes at some point later that you haven't gotten to. So there can be a disconnect, but I feel like it's just kind of inherent in this kind of storytelling, though. And I mean, those would be cool things to do, but I think you just get this sometimes, unfortunately.
I honestly straight up didn't finish with the Candle King stuff. It was but I mean, I love the expansion. I love so many of the quests, but I'm sorry. You kind of have to work real hard to get me involved and invested in Cobalt. You didn't quite stick the but maybe I'll go back and I'll enjoy it later. As for the Magni bit, you do confront the High Speaker. He does escape. Like he's still out there, still working for Knife Lady. My God, I can't remember Knife Lady's name. Zalatath.
Zalatath?
Yeah, Zalatath. I honestly, my brain was just Knife. No, it's Knife Lady now. Like, no, she has a name. It's Zalatath. But yeah. He's still out there, and I would be not surprised to see him in a future raid down the road. I just feel like future raids and dungeons need bosses too, and that's just something that's happened in practically every WoW expansion I can think of. If they have progressing dungeons and stuff, they usually had stuff show up that didn't show up immediately. As soon as you finish the storyline to get through the first part of the game, you can't put everything in the dungeons that start. And that because then you have nothing for the dungeons that are following. So yeah, I think it's likely there might be another dungeon or raid, and they will have some, the former High Speaker show up, and for that matter, lots more of the Skarden, because we didn't really see that many Skarden. We got the Skarden in one place really, and then they were done, and we moved on. So I think more Skarden in the future is definitely a possibility. But yeah, that's just my take on it. So I think that's going to be it for questions because we're kind of running out of time. So I'm going to now turn to Joe and say, do the thing, Joe.
Blizzard Watch is made possible due to the generous contributions at patreon.com/BlizzardWatch. Your continued support means that this podcast site and community is able to thrive and grow. Blizzard Watch supporters enjoy exclusive benefits like early access to the podcast, better chance at having your question answered on a podcast with a Q&A ads-free site experience.
Thank you very much, Joe. And I have to fight not to call you Joseph because at the time I called you Joseph and you thought you were in trouble.
No, you can call me Joseph. Just there's a certain other one that you're not allowed to call me, and we're not going to say it because then people will start calling me it, and I will have to murder people with my brain.
That's fine. I wasn't going to say it. But yeah, thank you, Joe, and thank you to Liz for not only getting Cory roped in on here, so I got that extra break for my throat because I seriously needed it. Like my throat was scratchy and dry, but also for then coming in the clutch double announce thing. I was so happy. I'm not even kidding. Like she got it all done in one thing. Yes. So yeah, that made this
teamwork.
I think we got a little bit further in the podcast than we would have otherwise, thanks to that. So yeah, again, Jason Schreier's new book is coming out, and we have a podcast coming out. We've already recorded it, and it's out now, right?
It's out. You can listen to it right now.
Yeah, so that podcast is there. You can go to our Patreon and give us money, and then we can do more stuff for you, because we're trying to do that. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the show. And feel free to, if you can't give us money or whatever, feel free to go and give us, a thumbs up wherever you listen to podcasts. That helps, too. bumps us up, makes the algorithm like us, that's all good too. Don't feel like you giving us money is the only way you can help. There are other ways to help, and we are amenable to all of them. But thank you guys.
Support.
Yep,
Moral
exactly.
support, also great. I appreciate it.
Anyway, thank you guys so much for being here. This has been the Blizzard Watch podcast, and we will be back next week.